What happens when a nation built on privilege, power, and absolute monarchy begins to crack from within? What happens when the poor can no longer eat, while the rich refuse to bend? In 1789, France, one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe, exploded into chaos. Kings would fall. Blood would flow in the streets. And a new idea would rise, one so dangerous, it would shake the entire world. The people should rule. This is the story of how France stopped being a monarchy, and became a republic. To understand the French Revolution, we must go back to 18th-century France, a nation of nearly 28 million people, ruled by King Louis XVI. France was not just a country, it was an absolute monarchy. This meant the king had complete power. His word was law. No elections. No constitution. No accountability. But beneath this powerful image, France was deeply divided. Society was structured into three estates. The first estate, the clergy, priests and bishops. The second estate, the nobility. Wealthy landowners. The third estate, everyone else, peasants, workers, and the rising middle class. Here's the injustice. The first and second estates made up less than 3% of the population, yet owned most of the land and paid almost no taxes. Meanwhile, the third estate, 97% of the population, carried the entire tax burden. The system was not just unequal, it was explosive. By the late 1780s, France was in deep crisis, economically, socially, and politically. First, financial collapse. France was drowning in debt, partly from helping America win independence from Britain. The royal court at Versailles continued to spend extravagantly, while the treasury ran dry. Second, food shortages. Poor harvests led to rising bread prices. Bread, the staple food, became almost unaffordable. Imagine this. A family spending over 80% of their income just on bread. And still going hungry. Third, Enlightenment ideas. Thinkers like John Locke, Voltaire, and Rousseau challenged monarchy. They spoke of freedom, equality, and the rights of citizens. These ideas spread like wildfire among the educated middle class. People began to ask dangerous questions. Why should one man rule millions? Why should privilege be inherited, instead of earned? In May 1789, King Louis XVI called a meeting of the Estates General, a gathering of all three estates, to solve the financial crisis. But there was a problem. Each estate had one vote. So the first and second estates could always outvote the third. The third estate refused to accept this. They broke away and declared themselves the National Assembly, claiming to represent the people of France. Soon after, they took the famous tennis court oath, vowing, "We will not separate until we have written a constitution for France." This was the moment everything changed. Power was no longer seen as coming from the king, but from the people. On July 14, 1789, fear and anger reached a boiling point. Rumors spread that the king would use force to crush the revolution. So the people of Paris armed themselves. Their target, the Bastille, a prison that symbolized royal tyranny. They stormed it. Gunfire erupted. The fortress fell. This was more than an attack. It was a declaration. The people were no longer afraid. Today, Bastille Day is still celebrated as the birth of modern France. In October 1789, thousands of women marched from Paris to Versailles. They demanded bread. They demanded justice. They forced the king and queen to return to Paris, under the watch of the people. From this point on, the monarchy was no longer absolute, it was controlled. In 1791, King Louis XVI made a fatal mistake. He attempted to escape France, to seek help from foreign monarchies. But he was caught. This shattered any remaining trust. The people now saw him not as a king, but as a traitor. In 1792, the monarchy was officially abolished. France was declared a republic. No king. No crown. No throne. Power now belonged, at least in theory, to the people. But the revolution did not bring immediate peace. Instead, it entered its darkest phase, the Reign of Terror, 1793 to 1794. Led by Maximilien Robespierre, the government sought to eliminate enemies of the revolution. Anyone suspected of opposing the Republic was executed. The weapon of choice, the guillotine. Even King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette were executed. Ironically, a revolution for freedom had become a period of fear. Thousands died. So why did France stop being a monarchy? Because the monarchy failed, on every level. It ignored the suffering of the people. It refused reform until it was too late. It lost the trust of the nation. And ultimately, it betrayed its own people. At the same time, a new belief was rising. That sovereignty belongs to the people, not a king. This idea gave birth to the French Republic. The French Revolution didn't just change France, it changed the world. It inspired revolutions in Europe and beyond. It introduced concepts like human rights, citizenship, democracy, equality before the law. But it also showed something darker. That revolutions can spiral into chaos, when power shifts too quickly. The French Revolution was not just a political event. It was a turning point in human history. A moment when ordinary people stood up, and said, "Enough." They tore down a monarchy, and dared to imagine a new world. But the question still remains today. When power changes hands, will it bring freedom, or chaos?